Tonight we're peeling back the marble curtain on something grittier than a gladiator's bathwater. We're going to see what life was really like in the Roman Empire, not as an emperor, not as a senator reclining on silk, but as a soldier, a grunt, a cog in the greatest military machine the world had ever seen. So before we strap on the sandals and march headfirst into history, take a second to like this video and subscribe, but only if you're into this kind of late-night time travel. And tell me in the comments what time it is for you and where you're tuning in from. I always love seeing who else is still awake and weird, like me. Now dim the lights, turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and get ready. Because you're not sitting on a couch anymore. You just woke up in 79 CE, and your new job is to survive an entire day as a Roman legionary. Spoiler, you won't. Congratulations, you're alive. Unfortunately, you're also enlisted. The good news is, you're not a slave. The bad news is, you're property anyway. You've enlisted in the Roman army, which means for the next 25 years, your body, soul, and remaining me cartilage belong to the empire. Think of it like a really intense gym membership, but with more stabbing. You wake up before the sun because the sun doesn't outrank your centurion. He does, and he's yelling. The voice of a man who's fought Germans, Parthians, and probably 2 bears is now screaming directly into your hangover. You're sleeping in a tent, but not the nice kind with mosquito netting and built-in Wi-Fi. No, this is a canvas sweat trap jammed with 7 other snoring, lice-infested soldiers. Welcome to the contubernum, your 8-man sleepover squad for the rest of your enlistment. You live together, eat together, march together, die together. There are no introverts in the Roman military, just survivors. Your pillow? A bag of straw. Your blanket? Also straw. Your mattress? The ground. And your dreams? Nightmares of trench foot and barley rations. You stretch, but instantly regret it. Your back cracks like a catapult mid-launch. You're 25 years old, but your spine already identifies as 60. Your feet are blistered, your calves feel like marble, but not in a good way, and there's something crawling on your neck. Don't worry, it's probably just a harmless scorpion. Time to freshen up. Except there's no fresh and definitely no up. You'd love to wash your face, maybe splash some water, scrub off the smell of fermented man sweat and regret. Too bad. There's no plumbing, no basin, not even a soggy towel. Your hygiene options are limited to 1. Spitting on your hands and pretending that counts. 2. Rubbing your face with yesterday's tunic, which smells like goat. Or 3. Doing absolutely nothing and letting the stink become your armor. Most soldiers choose option 3. To relieve yourself, you head to the latrine trench. A lovely communal experience where privacy is a distant memory and dignity died 3 provinces ago. There are wooden planks to squat on, but no partitions. No toilet paper either. Just a sponge on a stick. Shared. Washed in salt water. Reused. Often. That sponge has seen things. You return to camp smelling like a walking battlefield. And the day hasn't even started. Let's talk breakfast. You're gonna hate it. You sit around the campfire with your contubernum, and out comes the morning feast, pulse. It's a kind of barley porridge that looks like something scraped from the inside of a catapult. Bland, lumpy, served cold, unless you're lucky enough to heat it over some embers. On the side, maybe a hunk of coarse bread, stale, dense enough to break a tooth or double as a throwing weapon. Protein? If you're lucky, a strip of dried meat. If you're really lucky, it's not crawling with maggots. Cheese? Possibly, but it's hard, salty, and tastes like someone tried to pickle a boot. What about drinks? Water, technically. But it's mixed with vinegar. They call it posca, And it's what happens when the empire decides hydration should taste like failure. It's sour, slightly alcoholic, and somehow manages to both hydrate and insult you at the same time. You chug it anyway, because if you drink straight water, you're gambling with dysentery, and that's not the kind of dice game you want to lose. Uniform time. Or, as you'll soon call it, a wearable torture device. Getting dressed is a workout. First, you throw on your tunic, made of rough wool that's never been washed and never will be. It's scratchy, smells like a dead sheep, and holds heat like a Roman oven. You sweat before you finish putting it on. Next comes your belt, your colleghi, those heavy hobnailed sandals, and then the pièce de résistance, your lorica segmentata, a shiny metal breastplate made of overlapping iron strips. Looks cool, feels like a bear hug from Hades himself. It's heavy, awkward, and pinches every time you move. But it's the only thing standing between you and a javelin to the chest, so you don't complain too loudly. Your helmet, the gallia, rests snugly on your head, assuming you consider metal dome slowly cooking your scalp to be snug. There's no mirror. You don't need one. You look like every other poor bastard here, tired, armored, and one bad order away from getting skewered. Now line up for the morning inspection. Hope you like screaming. The centurion is waiting. He's the boss of your century, about 80 men, and he's already mad. Not at you specifically, just in general. At the gods, at the weather, at his wife, no one knows. He just exists in a permanent state of battle-ready fury. If your boots aren't laced, your armor's not polished, or your beard's too scruffy, congratulations, you're doing push-ups until your soul leaves your body. Or worse, you're getting flogged in front of your unit with a vine staff that hits like a thunder god's toothbrush. The Roman army doesn't believe in second chances. It believes in discipline, brutal, bone-deep, soul-wringing discipline. You learn fast, or you don't learn at all. And this is just the beginning. You haven't even marched yet.
Part 2. Marching into Madness. Punishment by Vine Stick, and the blisters that built an empire. You've made it through the morning. Barely. You've survived the sponge on a stick, swallowed a bowl of sadness they called breakfast, and passed inspection by the centurion without getting slapped into next week. Congratulations! Now it's time to march. And no, not a brisk jog around the fort for team building. We're talking 20 miles. In armor, while carrying half your body weight in gear, through dust, heat, and the vague sensation that your legs are planning to unionize. Welcome to the march. Your feet will never forgive you. It starts with a shout, not a friendly one, something guttural, Latin, and full of menace. The standard is lifted, the horn sounds, and just like that, the entire column begins to move. You fall into line like a cog in a very sweaty war machine. The roads are hard-packed and unforgiving, cobblestones if you're lucky, jagged gravel if you're not. Either way, your caligae, the army-issue sandals, are not helping. They're basically leather straitjackets for your feet with metal hobnails added for extra punishment. Every step feels like your arches are being judged by Jupiter himself. You're carrying your sarcina, a pack strapped to a wooden pole across your shoulder. It holds your cloak, cooking pot, shovel, rations, a small hand mill, spare tunic, a net. Yes, a net. A few wooden stakes for building camp. In other words, you're a human donkey, but less respected. Why are you carrying stakes? Because Rome doesn't do sleepovers. You're not just marching today, you're marching and building your own mini-city by sunset. Every single day, the Legion constructs a fortified camp from scratch. Trenches, ramparts, palisades. It's like Minecraft, but with more bleeding. As the sun beats down and the dust clogs your lungs, you begin to realize something. This isn't just a march, it's a slow, methodical conquest of your will. The Roman army isn't training your body. It's erasing your individuality. You're not a person anymore. You're a unit, a meat piston wrapped in bronze. Mess up? Say hello to Mr. Vinestick. The centurion is always watching. Always. He doesn't wear armor like you. He wears status, a cloak, a vine wood staff, and the permanent expression of a man who's seen things and is now deeply disappointed by your existence. Step out of line, the staff lands on your back. Lag behind, staff. Talk, staff. Look tired, staff. Breathe funny? You guessed it, staff. This isn't a gentle tap either. It's a full body whack, like Zeus himself decided to punish you through lumber. There's no trial, no appeal, just instant pain and a reminder that Rome runs on obedience. You don't protest. You don't complain. You just keep marching, because the alternative isn't freedom, it's decimation. What's decimation? Oh, just group punishment, but make it traumatizing. Let's say our unit really screws up. Maybe you mutinied. Maybe you ran from battle. Maybe someone dropped a javelin on the commander's dog. Whatever it is, the punishment isn't directed at the guilty. It's directed at everyone. The centurion lines up your unit, 100 men. He orders them into groups of 10. Each group draws lots. One man from each group is chosen. The other 9? They beat him to death. With clubs, with fists, with rocks. Doesn't matter. Decimation. 1 in 10, randomly chosen, murdered by his brothers in arms while the officers watch. It's not about justice. It's about terror-based bonding. After that, you sleep outside the camp for days. No fire, no shelter, just silence, shame, and maybe the faint crunch of morale breaking under your feet. Rome doesn't do second chances. Rome removes variables. Lunch break? Not exactly. After hours of marching, you stop to eat, if you can call it that. You drop your pack, your bones screaming, and you dig out the rations. Dried meat, some hard cheese, and a few olives that look like they've seen better centuries. No hot food unless someone started a fire, no utensils unless you made one, and no guarantee that you won't be ordered to pack it back up before you finish chewing. Still, this is the best part of your day so far. You sit on a rock, stretch your legs, try not to think about the blisters, try not to stare too long at the vultures circling above, try not to think about whether this road leads to a battlefield, because it usually does. Afternoon march. This is where the delusions start. You're back on your feet. The sun's higher now, and your helmet has turned into a personal oven for your scalp. You've stopped sweating. That's not a good sign. Your shoulders burn, your thighs feel like boiled cabbage, and your feet? Your feet are on their own spiritual journey. Half blister, half curse, all suffering. You try to distract yourself. You count paces. You recite Latin insults under your breath. You imagine what it must be like to be a rich senator reclining on a couch dictating letters to some poor slave named Flavius. You hate Flavius. You envy him. Anything to stop thinking about the chafing in places no mortal should chafe. You arrive. Now build the camp. You finally reach the designated spot. There's no hotel, no shelter, just dirt, weeds, and some angry goats watching from the hills. Immediately orders are barked. Lines are drawn. Trenches are dug. You, the living, limping, sunburned embodiment of imperial ambition, are expected to clear the land, dig a ditch around the perimeter, raise a rampart with sharpened stakes, erect your tent again, and prepare for inspection, all before sundown. If you were hoping for a nap, go ahead and toss that fantasy into the latrine trench where dreams go to die. Welcome to the fort. Enjoy your stay. It's temporary. By the time you finish building the camp, your hands are raw, your tunic is soaked, you've lost all sensation in your feet except a dull, aching throb that feels vaguely Roman. The tents go up again, 8 men to a canvas. You lay out your gear for inspection. You try not to look like a human ruin, because in the Roman army, if your gear is damaged or lost, you don't just get yelled at, you pay for it, out of your already pitiful wages. Yes, the empire makes you buy your own sword. Get blood on it? Fine. Lose it? You better hope you know how to barter with goats.
Part 3. Night Watch, Drill Torture, and the Violent Romance Between You and Your Gladius. You've marched 20 miles, built a fortress by hand, and your feet feel like 2 boiled amphorae stuffed with regret. You think, maybe now I can sleep. Wrong. Because in the Roman army, sleep is a privilege, not a guarantee. And tonight, you're on watch duty. Welcome to the most exhausting part of your already soul-shriveling day. Night Watch, staring into the darkness while questioning all life choices. You're assigned the third watch, the worst one, right before dawn, when sleep hits deepest and your brain is already filed for retirement. You get maybe 3 hours of sleep before someone kicks your ribs and whispers, "Your turn." The camp is silent, except for distant snoring and a soldier trying not to cry into his cloak. You strap on your armor again, because yes, you must wear armor during night watch, and grab your spear. Your job now is to patrol the camp walls, listen for sounds that don't belong, and not fall asleep standing up like an exhausted iron scarecrow. The torches flicker, the wind howls. Every shadow looks like a barbarian raid about to happen. But it doesn't, because barbarians don't raid in the dark. That's your job. Back to bed? Just kidding. It's drill time. After your barely slept watch shift, you stumble back into your tent, hoping for rest. Then the horn blows. The horn always blows. It's not even sunrise yet. The centurion is awake, which means you are awake, and today's agenda is formation drills, weapon practice, shield conditioning. Maybe, if the gods are kind, a mock battle that ends in only minor injuries. You line up with your unit in full gear, again, and the training begins. Not soft, movie-style training, real training, dangerous, brutal, soul-flattening repetition. Let's talk about your gladius. It hates you, but it's also your best friend. This short, stubby sword, the gladius, is your main weapon. It's not for slashing, it's for stabbing, straight through the gut, up under the ribs, or into the throat if you're feeling ambitious. But during training, you don't use your actual gladius. That's too risky. No, the Romans hand you a wooden sword, twice as heavy. Why? Because if you can survive swinging that beast all morning, the real one will feel like a feather that can disembowel a man in 3 seconds. You're told to thrust over and over. Your arms ache, your shoulders tremble, your vision goes slightly blurry, but you keep going, because quitting isn't an option. Quitting gets you flogged. And no one wants to be the guy who vomits in formation again. Shield drills, the art of holding a wall while your arms die. Next up is the scutum, your rectangular Roman shield. It's big, it's heavy, it smells like wet goat and cold blood. And today you're learning how to hold it while being yelled at, shoved, and pelted with rocks. This is testudo training, the tortoise formation. You and your unit form a square, front shields up, side shields out, top shields locked over your heads like a tortoise shell. Then someone, usually a bored superior officer, throws actual rocks to test your formation. If you flinch, he notices. If you duck, you're mocked. If you drop your shield, you do push-ups until your arms detach from your body and go AWOL. It's claustrophobic, hot, and filled with the smell of 80 unwashed soldiers grunting in a pile. The testudo? It's genius. But also, it's a portable sauna of despair. Swordplay practice. Now try not to kill your friend. After the shield drills, it's time to spar. Yes, with other soldiers. Yes, using dull blades. No, you are not allowed to hold back. In the Roman army, training is supposed to hurt. Not mortally, but enough to remind you that war is coming. You face off against a fellow legionary. He's tired, angry, and took your last olive ration yesterday. This may get personal. The training officer yells, "Ad gladium!" You lunge. He blocks. You both slip on mud and curse in Latin. Your shield hits his shin. His sword slams your side. You both wheeze, laugh, and then immediately regret laughing because your lungs are full of dust. That you don't stop, because somewhere beyond the border, a real enemy is sharpening a real blade. And when that moment comes, Rome expects you to stab first and grieve later. Bathhouse? Sort of. Disease tank? Definitely. You've trained, bled, and blistered through another morning. Now the officer gives the nod, bath time. Sounds luxurious. It's not. You and a few dozen other soldiers shuffle into the camp bath tent, a steaming hut with one large tub and exactly 0 rules about personal space. The water? Warmish. Smells like old cheese and wet leather. Soap? Optional. Cleanliness? Not guaranteed. Still, you dunk your body into the tepid broth of other men's filth and close your eyes. For one glorious moment, you feel human again. Then someone farts, the tub ripples, and reality returns. You dry off with a shared cloth that might once have been white, and you put your crusty tunic back on, and you prepare for the most exciting part of your day. Lunch. Midday meal. Slightly less terrible than breakfast. Today's lunch is a thin barley soup with some floating lentils and something you hope is pork. On the side, stale bread. Again, because fresh bread is for festivals and funerals. You eat quickly, not because you're starving, you are, but because there's only so much time before the next order gets barked and someone needs a volunteer. And in the Roman army, volunteering means digging a latrine, hauling a siege engine, or cleaning the commander's sandals with what you hope is just vinegar. No one wants that. So you eat, you don't speak, and you mentally prepare for what comes next. Because when the sun hits its peak, the drills stop, and the lectures begin. Roman military lectures, now with extra threats. In the afternoon, the centurion calls the cohort together. You line up, sweating through your armor, and try to stand still while your joints threaten to mutiny. He talks about discipline, valor, and how the last guy who fell asleep during a march now sleeps permanently under a pile of rocks. You nod. You pretend to absorb the wisdom of a man who has killed more people than fevers. You don't dare blink too slowly, because the punishment for nodding off during a lecture, it's creative, it's public, and it usually involves animal dung and humiliation. Coming up next, actual combat, emotional trauma, and why the gods might not be on your side after all.
Part 4. Blood, Sand, and Screaming. Welcome to actual combat. You've endured the march, survived the drills, smelled the bathwater. Congratulations, you've leveled up from human to slightly cleaner human with bruises. But the fun's just beginning, because now the enemy approaches. And your centurion just yelled something that chills your bones. Parati ad pugnam. Prepare for battle. The enemy has no name, only screams. No one tells you what tribe this is. Could be Gauls, could be Dacians, could be angry locals whose farm you accidentally built a latrine on last week. Doesn't matter. They're out there, in the hills, behind the trees, screaming like demons and banging weapons on shields in a rhythm that says, "We're here to kill you, and maybe eat your liver after." The fear hits before the weapons do. Your stomach drops, your hands shake, your mind races. And the guy next to you? He's already peeing. A little. Quietly. No judgment. Everyone does. This is real war. Not training, not sparring. This is where steel meets ribcage. Formations form, hearts pound, shields lock. The centurion's orders come fast. You move like clockwork because you've done this in drills until your bones screamed. You line up in the triplex aces, 3 lines deep. The front line crouches slightly, shields forward. The middle line holds steady. The back line breathes shallow, praying to Mars, Jupiter, and any deity that still takes messages. Your shield locks with the man beside you. You feel his heartbeat through wood and iron. It's fast. Yours is worse. Someone to your left vomits. No one reacts. Someone to your right starts whispering a prayer, quiet, panicked, like it's leaking out of his chest. You grip your gladius. Your hand is slick with sweat. The blade feels heavier than usual, like it knows what's coming. Contact. Noise. Chaos. Hell. The enemy charges. You don't get a cinematic wide-angle view. You get screams, dust, a blur of movement, and then impact. Suddenly, there's a man in front of you trying to kill you with something sharp and rusty. You thrust, just like the drills, straight into his gut. It slides in easier than you expected. You don't have time to process that, because now someone else is there, swinging wildly. You raise your shield, feel the blow rattle down to your spine, then lunge forward. You don't fight clean. You stab, you shove, you slam your shield into faces like a steel door with vengeance issues. This isn't choreography. This is survival. The smell of war isn't glory. It's blood, shit, and panic. No one tells you how war smells. You expected fire, maybe smoke. What you get is blood, so much blood. The metallic stench of iron and meat. Urine, fear-soaked and fresh. Open bowels, the dying tend to release everything. And sweat. From you, from them, from every surface of every soldier within 5 feet of you. It clings to your nostrils, soaks your tunic, gets into your mouth if you scream too long, which you do because you have no choice. Time slows down and speeds up. You lose track of which is worse. You're not sure if 5 minutes or 5 hours have passed. You've stabbed 3 men, maybe 4. One was already falling when you hit him, but you stabbed anyway because you can't take chances. Your arm is shaking, your legs hurt. Your shield's edge is dented and sticky. Then the order comes, retreat to the second line. You shuffle back, your replacement surging forward to take your place. You fall behind him, panting, mouth dry, knees shaking. Someone grabs your shoulder and yells, "You're not dead! Good job!" You don't respond. You're too busy trying not to vomit. The wounded lie moaning. Some won't moan for long. After the battle, there's silence. Not peace, just absence. The enemy's gone. Some fled, some bled. Some are still bleeding, out there in the mud, crying for mothers they haven't seen in years. You're ordered to help collect the wounded. Yours first, then maybe theirs, if there's time, if the centurion is feeling generous, if Jupiter is still in a bad mood. You step over corpses. One has half a face. One has a javelin through the thigh and keeps asking for wine. One is clutching his intestines like a dropped rope. You try not to look too hard. You focus on dragging limbs, holding pressure, and whispering false encouragements through clenched teeth. You're fine. Hold on. It's just a scratch. It'll be okay. It won't. But lying feels more merciful. There's no surgeon, just the medicus, and a lot of hope. You drag your bleeding friend to the medicus, the army's field doctor. He's halfway to a priest, halfway to a carpenter. His tools are iron, dull and stained. His ointments are mostly wine and superstition. There's no anesthesia, there's no guarantee. If you're lucky, he'll cut out the arrow and sew you back up with horsehair. If you're not, you get a hot knife, a bottle of vinegar, and a wooden stick to bite down on until your teeth crack. Screams are normal. Passing out is encouraged. Survival? That's a coin toss. Victory feast? Don't get too excited. That night, the centurion announces that the battle was a victory. Cheers go up, but they're muted, tired, half-hearted. You sit by the fire. There's a pot of hot stew, better than usual, and a skin of wine passed around like a sacred relic. You sip. It burns. Someone laughs too loudly. Someone else cries into their bread. You stare into the fire and try not to picture the face of the man you killed. But his eyes keep appearing anyway, because the problem with stabbing someone from 2 feet away is you see everything. And later, when you sleep, you'll see it again, and again, and again. Promotion? Maybe. PTSD? Definitely. If you survived and impressed the right officers, you might get a promotion, more pay, maybe a better tent, maybe a job carrying the unit's Eagle standard. But most likely, you'll just do this again. Next week, next month, in Gaul, in Germania, in Judea. Same fear, same blood, different map. Tomorrow, you'll bury the dead. Today, you pretend you're alive. Sleep comes slowly. Your body aches. Your ears still ring. Your dreams will be made of swords, screams, and teeth. And tomorrow, you'll wake up and do it all over again, because you're a Roman soldier, and Rome doesn't care about your nightmares,
only your discipline. Coming up next, payday, retirement, spoiler, you won't make it, and why the Roman Empire chewed up its heroes.
You survived the march. You survived the battle. You even survived the bathwater. So now, finally, you're going to be rewarded, right? Sure. If you consider a few copper coins, another decade of suffering, and a vague promise of land a reward. Welcome to the Roman concept of compensation. Let's talk pay. Try not to laugh or cry. You signed up for the prestige, the honor, the citizenship, maybe even a few denarii to send home. So let's break it down. A legionary earns about 225 denarii a year. Sounds decent? Not when you realize you're paid 3 times a year. The army deducts the cost of food, clothing, gear, weapon upkeep, medical care, and anything else they feel like charging for, which leaves you with maybe a third of your wages. Oh, and if your unit gets fined, like for losing a standard or embarrassing the centurion, they just dock everyone's pay. Congratulations, you've officially discovered military-grade capitalism. But wait, there's loot. Sometimes. Rome doesn't always pay in coins. Sometimes you fight in a campaign that ends in victory, and your general throws a donative, a personal bonus. A couple extra coins, maybe a trinket, a bronze cup, a piece of a barbarian's jewelry. Other times, you get to loot the enemy camp. That's the jackpot. Weapons, livestock, even slaves. Of course, if the officers catch you looting improperly, they'll just take it, or fine you, or flog you. Sometimes all 3. So yes, technically, there's loot. Just don't touch it, unless you want to spend the next week digging ditches with broken fingers. Promotion means power. Also, more people trying to kill you. If you've survived long enough, followed orders, killed efficiently, and avoided getting your face caved in by a rebellious Gaul, you might get promoted. You could become a tesserarius, a junior officer. Then maybe an optio, second in command to a centurion. And if the gods are drunk enough to favor you, you might become a centurion yourself. Which means better pay, your own tent, authority over 80 men, a vine stick of your own to beat people with. Also, you're now the first target in any battle, because enemies know if they kill the centurion, the unit falls apart. So yes, promotions come with perks, also with a slightly higher chance of death by axe. Let's talk retirement, or what's left of you by then. You signed a 25-year contract. Let that sink in. 2.5 decades of marching through deserts, forests, and frozen bogs, eating barley until your dreams smell like wheat, getting stabbed, infected, burned, bruised, yelled at, and occasionally ignored until your soul leaks out through your boots. And if you survive, you might get land. You might get a modest pension, a lump sum of 3,000 denarii. You might even become a citizen if you weren't already. But there's no rehab, no healing, no structured transition to civilian life. You're dumped into some colony in Gaul or Spain with a limp, a haunted stare, and a plot of farmland that refuses to grow anything but stones and scorpions. But most soldiers don't make it to 25 years, because the truth is, the average Roman soldier doesn't retire. He dies. From disease, from injury, from poor sanitation, from drinking bad water one too many times, from an ambush, from the friendly fire of a panicked recruit who couldn't tell left from right. Some die in battle, many die off the battlefield, in places no poet will write about. They just disappear. Into the mud. Into the machine. Because Rome remembers victories, not the men who made them happen. The afterlife? That depends on who you ask. Some soldiers believe in Elysium, a paradise where heroes go after death. Others hope for nothingness, a final release from pain. Some think they'll be reincarnated, hopefully not as another soldier. And some don't think at all. Not anymore. Not after the things they've seen. Because once you've bayoneted a man in the gut while his friend screams your name in a language you don't understand, theology becomes complicated. Why do they keep signing up? That's the real question. If it's this bad,
If the pay is garbage, the food is worse, the death rate rivals modern rock concerts, why did men keep joining? The answer is because for many, it was the only path forward. Join the army, and you get food, shelter, structure. You get citizenship, you get status, and most of all, you get to be part of something bigger than yourself. Rome. An empire that spans continents, an idea forged in blood and ambition. To a peasant farmer with no land and no future, the army was salvation, or at least less of a death sentence than starving in obscurity. The day ends, the cycle doesn't. You lie in your tent again, the same canvas walls, the same 7 other snoring soldiers. Your armor is dented, your sword is dull, your face is older than it was this morning. But you survived the day. And in Rome, that's a kind of victory. Tomorrow, you wake up before sunrise. You march, you dig, you train, you bleed, you chant with your cohort as the sun rises over another field that doesn't know your name. Because you are a Roman soldier, and you don't get days off, only days left.